lot of questions, whoever we run into. Could even be a merc ship. So what the hell do we tell him about you?
Tell him Riddick's dead.
I know a man. He won't be easily found.
It's not my fight. I told one man where I might go.
There's not enough time in 2 hours to explain the universe. So we have to add something that helps to explain or, you know, further uncover this universe.
I wrote this story only because I wanted to make sure that the period between Pitch Black and Chronicles of Riddick was documented, and to make those multiple worlds feel like they belonged in the same universe.
Critical systems failure in 3 seconds.
The whole point was you have Pitch Black and you have Chronicles of Riddick. They're very different in a lot of ways. So for me, this was the thing that helps explain that.
You mentioned her.
That's what that bridge is. It shows how they lost track of each other, how they separated 5 years ago.
She never forgave you for leaving just when she needed you most.
A lot of questions, whoever we run into. Could even be a merc ship.
It only made sense to, start from where they departed, from Pitch Black. I think it was important to kind of show that these 3 characters will be important in the next film.
Riddick and Jack and Imam have been through hell in the first movie, and it's just like the car breaking down on the freeway on the way home from a funeral.
Engine and hull failure imminent under current parameters.
David had kind of had this idea of, I want to run to a merc ship. It's this strange kind of mercenary vessel called the Kubla Khan, captained by a very imperial woman by the name of Antonia Chillingsworth.
Yes.
Mercs have a huge backstory. They're deep as far as their ships and their livelihood, and because you see what Chillingsworth is, her little operation's a big operation. We saw an opportunity in introducing Toombs. Again, we'll introduce Toombs in Chronicles in his own way.
Miss me.
We had to design a whole spaceship full of spacefaring mercenaries and their whole culture within this spaceship, which is like a museum in space. It's like a palace, Chillingsworth's private art sanctuary.
How?
It's a very bizarre and baroque and multi-layered environment.
How will I ever have you mounted to do it justice?
She's kind of a death freak. Like, she's kind of into art in all forms, and she considers killing an art.
I need to see it, Riddick. I need to see it with my own eyes.
I like the fact that she's an older woman. I like this strange energy between her and Riddick.
I get out of there alive, you'll see it again.
The way Peter Chung explained on how he's going to make the shrill fight work, and the dynamics with the lighting and just Riddick's dexterity and where the kid's going to be in Imam, that was exciting.
It's a very long and slow process. First, you have to design your characters, and you have to design your environment. And so we spent several weeks in LA at Sunwoo. While the storyboards are being done, we record the dialogue and edit the dialogue to an animatic, which is basically the storyboards scanned into a computer and then edited together. We then decide on things like camera movement and the timings of shots and the order of shots. It gives you a template which gives you kind of a rough version of the final film. We then go into layout, which is taking the storyboard panels and drawing them in the full final artwork size. And that gets distributed to the animators and the CG people, because a lot of the backgrounds are computer generated. All the characters, the human characters, are being drawn by hand, except for some of them, like the Brax handlers, whose faces are covered in masks. We're doing those in 3D. The spaceships and the backgrounds are being generated by computer. The process of animation is such that as you're animating it, ideas for movement will occur to you. It's a process of continuing to refine the movement until it looks right. It's not like you're painting a picture and then you can just put it on the wall. It's like you have to shoot it and then you have to play it back at the speed where it's going to be shown on the film. Based on that, you have to go back to the drawing board and you have to fix it. One of the ways of getting around that difficulty is to divide the movement up into small shots. This is one of the key differences between like, traditional American style, if you want to call it, animation, and say Japanese animation, which is much more cinematic. It's very different directing through animators, because animators are, in a sense, they're like actors, but we use a different kind of language to describe, character and characterization. It's a very complex process of logistically managing all of these different elements, because a lot of the final scenes that you see will be comprised of different animated elements which are being done by different people in different locations, and characters need to match from the way they're drawn in one scene to another, and a lot of the time is spent trying to keep the look consistent. What makes the whole thing rewarding to me in the end is that through the collaboration process, you get a lot of ideas and performances of the animated characters that you wouldn't come up with on your own.
We made it.
I think the best part is you can do anything because it's animation. You don't have to worry about, well, how do I get Vin Diesel to the freaking roof, or safety, or any of that stuff. That all goes out the window.
All of these different elements help to inform and explain this world, and explain where Riddick has been, because it's somewhat of a guessing game in the beginning of the movie.
If you get to see the animation, you'll see how it ultimately works, and you'll have a lot of fun with the opening of the movie.
Riddick.
It's another world, and it's visually unbelievably appealing. It'll be exciting.
Riddick. We ain't done, boy. Not by a long shot.
The things which influenced me or inspired me to want to become an animator initially are not necessarily the things which continue to inspire me now. Like, as I've grown older and more experienced, my tastes have changed. I try to draw from a lot of different sources. The most important one being personal observation, just looking at your environment, your architecture, people, studying the way people look.
I've spent the latter half of my life observing fantastic things, but it's always after the fact. That changes now.
You can only create in the way that feels the most natural and instinctive to you, and you have to be true to that. Trying to imitate something that pre-exists or that's predetermined tends to create work that's very inbred and staid and not fresh.
You got a million UDs standing around collecting dust.
I try very much to avoid those kinds of formulas. So in that sense, I'm approaching it as if I'm inventing a way of using the medium. Originally, I started doing animation without any voices at all, because in a sense I wanted my animation to be pure, but in the end, I mean, it only serves to enrich the experience from the viewer's point of view.
What the hell was that?
Don't move.
Whatever medium you're working in, what you're really interested in is the emotional experience that the viewer gets, the audience gets, from looking at it. I think of animation as a method of filmmaking, you know, first and foremost. I don't really see much of a relationship myself with comic books and graphic novels. I mean, apart from the way you draw characters. When you're an animator, you do a lot of quick, rough drawings. You need to spend more time on each drawing when you're doing a comic book, I think, because it lingers on the page and it has to hold up by itself. When you're an animator, your drawings flash by on the screen in, you know, fractions of a second. And one way to think of animation is the control of the subliminal image, because you're looking at a rapid succession of images that flash so fast that they only register subliminally. And I like that elusive quality of the image in animation.
But a man like you does not understand such a thing by being lectured. You must experience it.
I'm very fortunate to have a really, I think, a very top-notch crew here. A lot of these animators and other artists are people that I've worked with over the years, and so I'm able to select them and assign them jobs which they are best suited for, depending on their individual talents. So if somebody's good at drawing effects or close-ups, then they'll get those scenes. Other artists are better at doing fast action scenes and so forth. Very often I'll look at the way another designer has done something and I'll say, well, that's fine, except I just wish that, you know, he would do this a little more, like put more emphasis here and less emphasis there. Creating is as much knowing what to avoid doing as knowing what you have to hit.
Here, they are appreciated for what they truly are. Art.
The computer allows you to do a lot of things that are just prohibitive to do by hand, and it's also faster. Doing things digitally, it allows you to keep things organic throughout. You can keep making creative decisions all throughout the process, whereas traditionally you had to pre-plan everything exactly how it was going to be beforehand. For me, the thing that is appealing about doing animation by computer is that it continues to progress, and so the technology keeps advancing, and each year practically we see the medium develop, whereas you don't get that with 2D animations. You know, in the end, I think whether the character is drawn by hand or it's generated by a computer program, I think the audience doesn't care, really. It's what the character and the story is able to convey emotionally. You know, that should be the key.
I remember shooting Pitch Black, and I remember thinking, there is some place to go with this character. The possibilities of exploring Riddick's world just kept haunting me. And I remember telling everybody that Riddick was going to come back. But this time we were going to follow Riddick into his universe.
I knew the trap the other sequels had fallen into, about kind of replaying the same thing over and over again. So I said, I think the key to it is not to do the expected. Don't go back to the same planet. Don't meet the same creatures. Don't even let it be a creature movie. Could we change genres? Could you go from horror science fiction to science fiction adventure and yet keep the same tone and keep the same characters? 5 years later, he is this self-exiled figure. Basically, I need to stay away from people. I need to stay away from my own kind because bad things happen when I'm around people. So in a strangely noble way, he's imposed self-exile on himself.
Imam knows that if you want Riddick, your best bet is to hire mercs. So Imam puts a bounty on Riddick's head.
So even holy men have their price.
4 years later, we find him with a wife and child, and he's involved into this scholarly figure who is very concerned for not only his planet, but for the fate of the universe. And to that end, he has made overtures to the Judi Dench character, Arion.
And whose throat is this?
This is Arion, an envoy from the elemental race. She means you no harm.
They've come to believe that Riddick is a key player in the fate of the universe.
Do you remember your home world?
Have you met any others?
Others like yourself.
Sister, they don't know what to do with just one of me.
Arion is taking an active hand in rebalancing the universe. Because that's what elementals are all about, balancing the universe. You know, if there's too much fire, a little water needs to be applied.
There are very few of us who have met a necromonger and lived to speak of it. So when I choose to speak of it, you should choose to listen.
The necromongers are sweeping through the universe, sort of perpetrating a 10th crusade on the universe.
They have a philosophy, a creed that says that life in this verse is an unguided mistake, never meant to be. Necromongers, in their parlance, cleanse worlds. They will take any race they meet, offer them the opportunity to join, and then those who don't join are left behind, are turned to dust, are plowed under.
It is unthinkable, and we simply cannot and will not be converted.
Join him, or join me.
When the necromongers come to the Capitol Dome, Riddick has shown up in the same location, but he's not there to hear these necromonger speeches, and he's definitely not there to succumb to this convert or die mentality.
This is your one chance. Take the Lord Marshal's offer and bow.
I bow to no man.
You don't want to ask him stupid questions like either convert or die, because he hears the word die and just has fun with it.
We have to look for a different kind of evolution in the Chronicles of Riddick for him. And that evolution is more about spiritual awakening and more about understanding who he really is and realizing that he is no small player in the universe, but a large player in the universe.